Hi there, I am outside pruning, winter pruning, and I thought I'd just shoot a quick video about that. I know I did a very extensive spiritual pruning video about a month ago, and honestly it has just been a very intense beginning to the new year of 2020, and as well as winter weather is just not ideal for being outside shooting videos. So it's dry, it's overcast, but it's dry for a moment, and I thought I would share the task with you for a minute. So what I have behind me is a twin berry. You can see a little bit of its leftover fall foliage. This is a native to the Pacific Northwest, Oregon specifically, and I prune her in January because she blooms on new growth. So in order to keep her contained to her space and looking her best and being the healthiest that she can be, and as well as me being able to enjoy and see her blooms, I make sure that she gets pruned just before leafing out. And this plant, it has a beautiful magenta flower and a double berry. It's a twin berry that's like a dark purple blue color. I understand bears might eat them. I think deer might eat them. I'm not sure. But I know that the hummingbirds absolutely love this plant. But so do the garden finches, because it's such a, you can pretty much see it. It's kind of a tangly kind of shrub. So even in the winter time, the garden finches have protection. So real quick tutorial. This plant has pretty small stems, so I won't use anything much bigger than a regular pruner. I don't even have my long-handled pruners that cut bigger stems out here with me, because I know I won't be getting that far into the wood. So we talked about the triple D's and some aesthetics and all that kinds of stuff. So the first thing that I would do is give the shrub an overall look and see if there's anything obviously dead, which I can understand is a little bit more difficult to see in the winter time when there's no growth growing out on it right now. And so if you don't find it and you find a dead limb in the spring or summer, it's perfectly fine to cut it out then, even though that's not the time that you would prune this particular shrub. And there is it appears to be a dead cane here, so I just cut into where there was some growth and leave it at that. The other thing that I would look for is crossing branches. So I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to show you this, but there's a branch coming from a far part of the shrub into this part of the shrub. So I'll remove that branch. Because I don't want things getting too crazy. This particular shrub is okay to have some crossing branches, only because it's just, I pretty much just have it for the birds. But at the same time, if it looks like a branch that's going to cause so much rubbing that it'll cause damage to the cambium and expose the cambium of the stem and I know that that introduces disease, then I want to avoid that because I don't want the entire shrub to decline because of my neglect. For this particular guy, I will be mostly doing heading cuts, which is reducing the size. And so it grows about 2 feet every year, and this is my second year in pruning it, which means it, for me, in my environment, this shrub had not been pruned in at least 10 years or more when I moved here. And so it's taken me a few years to get all of my shrubs you know, basically in control. And so last year I was only able to remove a third of this shrub, and I don't know if you can tell, I mean, you can see these, let's see, where is it? You can tell that some of these are you know, just a couple feet taller than me, and I had them at my height last year. But that was a third of the plant, which means that last year the tips of these guys were my height above me, so they were another 5.5 feet taller than they are right now. So anyways, my goal is to have this shrub at about my shoulder, which I will be able to do this year. And so that's what I'm out here doing, is reducing the size and just cleaning it up. I'll go ahead and show an example of what I might do. Here you can see that there's this nice big bud. There's also really small buds on some of the smaller branches that are not as easy to see. Where am I? Not as easy to see, but you can see the swollen nodes, and there's buds there. So that's where I would cut down. I would cut down into, at an angle where the bud is. You can see this bud, this swollen node here, and I would just cut at an angle right above the bud. And now that's basically all that I'm gonna do, and I'll just continue to do that throughout the whole shrub. So a couple other cuts that I would do is, for example, this little guy is damaged, so I would just cut it all the way up against the trunk. Oops. And then you could see this guy here is crossing, so again I would just take it down to a live bud that I want. You can basically choose the direction that the plant is going to grow by doing that. And then here's an example of a stem that is not alive, so I can just take this stem out as well. Here I can show you an example of how I can choose the direction that I'm going to have this plant growing. So currently this stem is coming out. If it was going to continue to grow, it would be in my pathway. Now if I took it down to this bud, which would be fine for heading and getting it out of my pathway, you see how this bud is growing this way? This stem will continue to grow this direction. However, if I go down to the next stem, you see this one is coming out this way. So if I take this stem down here, then there's a better chance of this stem to continue growing this direction instead of the direction that it's going now. and I could possibly let it grow for a longer period of time instead of cutting it back every year. Okay, so the skies are threatening to open up, and I'm going to go inside. Maybe you can see a little bit of a difference. It's just a little cleaner. There's not as many crossing branches. I really only got to the back side of this plant, and the front side is down on the lower portion of the terrace, so I'll have to get to that later. So a lot of what you're seeing, like in this area, beyond these beyond some of the harder branches, you're seeing some twiggy stuff. A lot of that is on the lower end, and you can also see my brush pile in there, so that's not part of that's not part of what the plant looks like. You could just see that it's opened up a little bit more and has a little bit more room to breathe. It's not quite so clustery like it is down there on the lower end. So, and then you know, this is just up on the upper end. But since it's about to pour down rain, I'm going to head inside now.